Hi everybody, Steve Keefe, broker owner of Coldwell Banker Skyridge Realty in Lake Arrowhead. Something that came up recently, we had an investor client, somebody that was buying a property that was currently in foreclosure. They wanted to know what restrictions and what additional concerns that they may be involved with in that transaction. And so I did some research on it, and there is some specific language in the law that protects homeowners. There's 4 criteria. First of all, the property needs to be a residential 1 to 4 property. Most residential properties are that, single family home. The second criteria is that the owner of the property that is in foreclosure must occupy the property. It needs to be their primary residence. Second of all, an NOD must be filed against the property, hence it's in foreclosure. And the fourth criteria is that the buyer of the property is an investor or non-occupant owner. They're not going to live in the property as a primary residence. If the transaction doesn't meet any 4 of those or all 4 of those criteria, then it's not protected under the home equity sales contract law. What the home equity sales contract law does is protects homeowners that are currently in foreclosure against unscrupulous buyers or being taken advantage of. And what it requires is, first of all, there's certain disclosures that need to be made. There's certain paperwork that needs to be filed. It used to be that a real estate agent could not represent, based on the law, a investor in the transaction. And what we found since, it's been challenged in the courts, and the criteria was that the real estate agent needed to post a bond for 2 times the amount of the home purchase. That bond was impossible to get. So what the law did was it created a situation where a real estate agent could not be involved in that transaction representing the buyer. Since that's been challenged in the courts, and in fact the requirement is not there, and the agent does not have to post a bond. There are certain requirements and there's certain prudence that is required when an agent is involved in a transaction like this, because there are protections for the seller of the property. If the law is broken, or if there is a situation where it can be proven that the agent and the investor took advantage of of the seller, there are provisions where recourse can be taken. There are fines that can be imposed. The seller of the property may be able to have recourse and go back and have the transaction reversed. But the answer to the question is yes, in fact, we can and should be involved in any of these types of transactions, because there are certain types of paperwork and certain disclosures that are necessary in order to protect all the parties of the transaction. So if you're an investor and you need representation, or you want to make sure that you are covered in the transaction, it's best to consult with your broker and make sure that the adequate disclosures and paperwork is taken care of. If you've got further questions or you'd like to ask me more about this topic, I can be reached at steve@cbskyridge.com or at my office at 909-336-2131. Thanks for listening today.